Okay, guys, welcome to part 2 of Food Cravings. So you got me and Sam here again this week, talking through this sort of element. So what we're going to do tonight is sort of move you on from some of the stuff we talked about last week, which was a lot of the why we get cravings and what certain cravings can mean. But now this week we're going to focus more on sort of the practical elements. Okay, so this is the stuff we covered in week 1. So identifying what food cravings were and why we have them, what they mean. We touched on emotional eating as well, and we sort of spent some time identifying the difference between physical and emotional hunger. Okay, so what we're going to do this week is move you on. So we're going to talk about some of the best foods which you can use or have as part of your diet to help with cravings. We're going to talk a little bit about outside factors as well, which could influence cravings a little bit more and actually bring them on, things like sleep and stress and all that sort of stuff. And then we'll give you some takeaway tips on how to actually beat cravings, so you can actually start implementing this sort of stuff in your daily routine to help you hopefully be more consistent and more successful with your goals. Okay, let's dive in then. So protein. So why is it so good? So that's what we're going to explain to you today. So we're gonna, I don't want to educate you on protein like all over again. We've talked you've probably heard loads about protein over the years, but we're just going to talk about it in relation to how it can help fit with cravings. Okay, so so in terms of why, it's one of the most satiating of all macronutrients. So it basically just means it can help to keep you feeling fuller for longer. So yeah, making sure we get good amounts of protein in the diet can go a long way in terms of winning the battle against cravings. So, good protein sources can include like things like Greek yogurt, eggs, poultry, so that's your turkey or chicken, fish, lean meats, tofu, and then you've also got plant-based alternatives, loads of those sort of things on the market now. Why is protein so good? Why do we go bang on about it so much in terms of how it's going to help you? But like I say, so this is how it will help you in terms of cravings. So I said it's one of the most satiating macronutrients. So it helps to reduce appetite and hunger levels. Okay, and how it does this is protein can actually help reduce ghrelin, which is the hunger hormone. That's right, isn't it, Sam?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah. So and apparently what it can also do is boost the level of this peptide hormone that makes you feel full. So basically, it literally hormonally it reduces ghrelin, which is that signal from the brain to the body saying you need to eat. So protein reduces that. We don't get that urge to eat quite as often, which can help them in terms of managing calories and those sort of things. And then it also influences that other signal as well, which tells the brain, okay, we've had enough food, we're full. So it sort of hits on both ends of the scale, which is pretty cool, isn't it, Sam?
Yeah, it's great. And a lot of people with protein, what they do is they'll keep their protein levels consistent, and that's fine. That's if you want to lose body fat, further down the line, people just tend to keep protein at the same level. But a really neat trick to do is actually, as you delve deeper into a diet, is to increase protein intake. And that's why what I'm tempted to do with a lot of clients, and I try and do, is not set their protein at the maximum threshold. Is set them just a little bit lower. I like to start clients on around 1.75 grams of protein per kilo of body weight. That's a really good place to start. And then what happens then is, as you can delve a little bit deeper into a deficit, we know that protein fills you up more than other macronutrients. So you've got a bit of potential in there just to bring protein up just a little bit and drop calories. And it obviously offsets the hunger. And if you offset hunger, you offset cravings. So that's quite a smart thing to do. If you do know that you're going to be dieting in the future, don't have your protein at the maximum threshold straight away. Leave yourself a little bit of room to increase your protein intake as you delve a little bit deeper into the diet. And it'll obviously, increase your satiety levels, make you feel fuller, and reduce those cravings.
That's it, because it's sort of that minimum effective dose. Really, is giving yourself the amount you need to get things moving. And then sometimes if it's too aggressive for your protein target, it gives you nowhere to go, doesn't it?
So, yeah, like one of my guys, I'm prepping him for a shoot now, and his protein's been 175 grams for 12 months, 14 months as I've been looking after him online. And I just put him up to 220 grams now. And he's not hungry, even though I brought his calories down by about 700 a day. So if you take 700 calories away normally, you'd be starving. Because I've increased his protein intake slightly, it's buffered it a little bit. So yeah, a little neat little tip for anyone that's watching.
All these little 1% things help out, don't they?
If you're not hungry, then you're going to be able to stick to your diet. If you're starving, it's going to be tough. You've got to,
Yeah.
you know, fight. You know, we can all short term we can just man up and get on with it, but long term it's difficult to do that. So yeah, definitely worth you know, thinking about all these little things that can help.
Yeah. And then sort of touched on it already. So yeah, protein helps reduce cravings and that sort of desire for snacks as well, just by helping regulate those sort of hormones. So yeah, sometimes though, when it comes to cravings, like we talked about this last week, where sometimes a craving is a signal from the body that we're not getting certain nutrients, we're lacking something. So what it does, it makes us uncomfortable to get us to take action and try and get that sort of food into the body. But sometimes the brain just wants a reward. So, you know, that little endorphin release from eating a certain food. So sometimes, you know, to prevent a craving is just try and to overcome a craving, sorry, is to prevent them in the first place. And like we sort of touched on already, increasing protein intake can be one of the best ways to do that. So there was 2 studies here. One was looking at sort of overweight men. And what they did was increase their protein intake to 25% of their calories. And what was found then as a result of that is their cravings reduced by 60%, which is massive. And then also another study in adolescent girls found that having, you know, high protein breakfast, that reduced cravings, and also it helped offset the desire for late night snacks. I know you promote this a lot, don't you, Sam, in terms of breakfast, getting like good protein and good fats in as well, so like steak and eggs and those sort of stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I think we've got neurotransmitters as well in our, you know, and the foods we eat do affect our neurotransmitters. So if we have, you know, a high carb meal, what often happens is you feel good for a little while. It boosts serotonin, like the feel good sort of hormone, the feel good neurotransmitter. But it can also make you feel a little bit tired later on in the day. Whereas what I find is, you know, a high protein, high fat diet with good fats, you know, it boosts dopamine, so it makes you a bit more driven and alert. So yeah, I'm a big fan of having you know, meat in the mornings for the satiety benefits, and the protein and fats breakfast works really well. It's not a Poliquin thing to do, you know, the meat and nuts breakfast. Rotate your meat sources. You could have, you know, chicken, turkey, tuna, salmon, steak, lamb, and then different types of nuts every day, like cashews, walnuts, Brazil nuts. And yeah, it definitely fills you up. And honestly, your cravings are massively reduced because it helps regulate blood sugar levels. You know, if you have, there's a study done about, I think might have mentioned this before in an education seminar, but 3 groups, and basically what they had, each group had the same breakfast and the same lunch. So one group had eggs, one group had sort of oatmeal, and one group had like Frosties. It wasn't Frosties, but it was a high sugar cereal. Each meal had 500 calories. And if you had oatmeal for breakfast, you also had oatmeal for lunch. If you had 500 calories of eggs for breakfast, you had 500 calories of eggs for lunch. If you had 500 calories of Frosties or Cocoa Pops for breakfast, you had 500 calories for lunch. So at the end of lunch, everyone had the same amount of calories. Okay, obviously the macronutrients are different, but the calorie intake, energy intake was exactly the same. Then what happened then is all 3 went to an all-you-can-eat buffet, and they actually calorie controlled how much each person ate. Now, nobody knew this study was going on, so it was like people just auto-regulating. Nobody had any idea of how many calories they'd had up to that date, but the group that had the high sugar breakfast and lunch, they consumed the most calories. Their cravings were the highest. Now, if you look at those 3 foods, which ones has the most protein? The eggs. Which one has the most, the least protein? The Cocoa Pops or the Frosties group, oatmeal being in the middle. Obviously, which one spikes blood sugar levels the most? The Cocoa Pops. The next one would be the oatmeal, and the second one then, the last one, sorry, would be the egg. So when it looks at controlling food cravings, I think protein's important. Managing blood sugar levels are important. But the other thing people fail to realize as well is which food has the highest nutrient density. Obviously, it's the eggs with the omega-3. Okay, in the yolk, there's lots of goodness in the yolk, a lot of B vitamins as well. Then the next one then would be the oatmeal with the fiber, and there's different nutrients as well in oats. They're really good for the gut. And then the least nutritious in terms of nutrient density would be the Cocoa Pops. So is it the protein that's key? Is it the nutrient density that's key? Or is it the fiber and or the managing of the blood sugar levels that's key? I'd say it's a combination of all 3. And if you can get all three of those things optimal, then your food cravings will be way less. And you're going to want to, eat less food. It's not just a case of craving less. You'll eat less, especially if you're auto-regulating your diet and you're not relying on, your ability to just eat a certain amount of calories and be a good client. You haven't got to fight temptation as much. So, yeah, I think managing blood sugar levels, hitting your protein, and getting good nutrient density is key. That's another interesting study, anyway.
Yeah, I as you started going into it, I remember I've heard that one before, and it is a really good one. So it just proves a massive point there, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, and also in terms of protein, it can help boost metabolism. I'll explain a little bit more this in a minute, and potentially fat burning. But so what happens is when we consume food, the body's got to digest it. And that is, that does require energy. So we actually do expend energy or burn calories trying to break down foods. And some macronutrients, the body has to work harder than others to break it down. And protein, surprise, surprise, is one of the ones the body has to work hardest trying to digest. And this is called the thermo effect of food. So what happens then? We consume more protein, we increase expenditure, and, like I say, the body has to work hard to break it down. So this usually equates to 20 to 35% energy expended trying to break it down. Whereas you look at carbohydrates and fats, it's more like 5 to 15%, which is much lower as well. So in terms of, looking at total daily energy expenditure and those sort of thing, again, it's like a cool, neat little trick. The more protein you eat, potentially you can increase energy expenditure because your body, has to work harder in order to break it down. And also then high protein diet has been linked to helping to maintain weight loss as well. And like I say, it's just a combination of things we've talked about where, just having more protein has been found to automatically create a reduction in calorie intake. Why is that? Like the things we talked about earlier, the impact it has on ghrelin. It reduces those hunger signals. It increases satiety signals. And like I say, that with a combination of thermoeffective food, we burn more calories when we're trying to digest it. So just all these things coming together helps to, in terms of weight, if you're trying to maintain it or lose it, just helps benefit those sort of processes as well. There's loads more benefits to protein, but like I say, I don't want to go on about, because you've probably heard them all before. I just want to try and keep it specific to helping managing cravings. But moving on to the next bit now. So what are the best foods that we can incorporate to help prevent cravings? So I've got a little list here, and we'll touch on some of the reasons why. So unprocessed foods, one of the best foods to have, just because, processed foods, you don't really tend to get many nutrients from those. And like we said last week, cravings is the body sometimes telling you that it's lacking something, it needs nutrients. So yeah, having, a diet that's, mainly or 80% unprocessed foods. So like your good cuts of protein, your fruit, your veg, your complex carbohydrates, good source of fats, those sort of things. They're going to give having those in variety as well and in good balance, they're going to give your body what it needs, and that's going to help limit those signals, those cravings being sent out. Non-caffeinated drinks as well. I know I've spoken to a client before where all she used to do was drink coffee together for the day and literally minimal food. And yeah, we can sometimes over rely on caffeinated drinks, myself included in that statement, to give us a little quick boost of energy. The thing is, this is it's not sustained energy, so you're going to get a crash later on down the line, or you're not going to feel great. So yeah, trying to get energy from good quality foods rather than caffeinated sources can help offset cravings as well. We've talked about lean proteins and why they're good. Whole grains, complex carbohydrates, you tend to get a lot more fiber from those. So when, like what Sam said about blood sugar management, and this sort of comes with fruit and veg as well, if we're getting fiber in the diet, what that'll do then is slow down the release of sugar into the bloodstream, so we get a more sustained release of energy rather than these sort of big spikes, which then leads to those big crashes. That's right in what I'm saying there, isn't it, Sam?
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. And then, so an example of a good carbohydrate source would be oats. So yeah, lots of fiber in there, a little bit of protein in there as well. So like linking back to Sam's study earlier, that middle group in terms of the the ones eating the buffet. That middle group were the ones with the oatmeal, and they consumed less calories overall in a day as compared to the high sugar cereal group. So that just shows how the combination of fiber and protein can help with hunger regulation there. And
I think one thing as well is oats. Like people, like we spoke about this before, but people think, oh, I can't have oats, like it's carbs, like they're bad for you, It's a really big misconception about carbs. But I'm going to use this again. A lot of people, like one of my clients today I can't have bread in the house. And I'm like, so tell me about how you make a sandwich then, and it's like one piece of bread or two pieces of bread, loads and loads of butter. All right. And then or they'll have toast, and it's like, oh, the bread is so bad for you that it makes me put on weight. So what do you put on the bread? And they're like, well, butter. I was like, so how do you know it's the bread and not the butter? And they're like, oh, well, I never thought about it like that. I was like, do you measure the butter? No. I was like, right, okay. Do you know jack and potatoes make me fat? Whenever I have them, I put on weight. What do you put on them? Is it a coleslaw? Is it the butter? Like I had one client and she was having around 400 calories of butter per day. Yeah. She was having bread and butter with every meal, old school, using it to mop up the beans and stuff, It's crazy. So yeah, oats are great because you can have them with like skim milk, and they're very low fat. So they're very calorie controlled, and they're very high in fiber. They're going to fill you up nicely, and obviously carbs have a higher thermic effect than fats as well. So really good food to have if you are training hard, especially in and around your workout.
Yeah, like I have that every day. I have my oats, scoop of protein powder, and then I have like sort of berries on top. So for that, like I can't remember how much fiber exactly, but I know I get a load of fiber from that, and when I have it, I feel really full afterwards. So it is a really good staple to have in your diet.
And it's good protein, and it's low calories, right? Because it's not many, like there's 9 calories in 1 gram of fat, so only 4 calories in 1 gram of carbs and 4 calories in 1 gram of protein. So a lot of people that have oats and they think, oh yeah, the oats I'm having, I got to stop having oats and put on weight. What do you put on them? Is it Biscoff? Is it peanut butter? Like that's probably the first thing you want to do before blaming the oats.
Yeah, that's it. And then water can be a big key player here. So I think we touched on last week how water can be linked with sort of cravings for sugary foods, and sometimes if you are actually like the thirst signal and the hunger signal are very similar. So sometimes when you get that little hunger pang, best thing you can actually do is first of all have a glass of water, and then just give it a bit of time and see if that settles that little pang down. If it carries on, then it's more hunger than thirst.
Yeah, another one as well on that one is coconut water, because coconut water is very high in antioxidants. It also contains a lot of minerals, so a little bit of sodium, lots of potassium, loads of magnesium. So coconut water is good to have as well if you are suffering from cravings. But be careful, obviously it does contain calories, but not many. You could have a liter of coconut water a day, and similar to the greens drinks that we promote in the gym, they're very low calorie. They do contain a fair bit of nutrients, and there's actually a lot of research out on coconut water helping people manage their blood sugar levels better. So it's really good to have when you train as well, because it's got a lot of electrolytes in it. Yeah. So if you're sweating a lot, then it's a good one to have.
Yeah, I went through a phase on. So I used to, sounds strange, but I used to hate plain water. Like it would make me heave. But I've gotten over that now. But yeah, one of the things I used to do was drink coconut water just to help me get some keep hydrated. And I know one of my girls in the gym, she tends to have coconut water as opposed to water.
Yeah, I think a liter of coconut water is around 240 calories. So a liter, you're probably not going to drink a liter a day. A liter lasts you, 2 days.
Cocoa.
Yeah, they're like 240 milliliters. So they're like 60 calories. 60 calories each, I believe. And you get about 15 grams of carbs with those. A little bit of sugar as well, because it does contain natural sugars. But I think you can get around 15% of your daily intake of potassium in a small coconut water. So there we go. Bit of calcium in there as well, phosphorus, other nutrients too. But yeah, it's very, very high in potassium. So that's why it's so good around training, because you lose a lot of potassium when you sweat.
And then the last one on that list then was vitamin and minerals. So basically supplementation, like I say, we talked about this last week. So like in an ideal world, we want you to get everything you need from food, from your diet, in terms of nutrients and minerals and all those sort of things. But sometimes that's not always possible. So yeah, supplementation can be, you know, good little insurance policy as well to help keep cravings and hunger at bay, by just making sure we're getting a good balanced diet, and then the supplementation can, like say, plug any gaps. So we've talked about multivitamins. We talked about zinc and magnesium last week. Sam just mentioned there the greens drinks have been proven to help with those sort of things as well. Now, so we're going to touch on outside factors which can bring on cravings or make them a little bit more intense as well. So things we're going to look at here is tiredness, exercise, stress, and again, I'm going to keep banging on about hydration because it is very important. So all these things can also play a part with your food cravings as well. So we're going to look at tiredness first. So yeah, it's not a secret. A poor night of sleep is going to cause havoc with your cravings, just because it throws up hormones out of whack and all sort of other things as well. So yeah, your appetite, as we've talked about already on this call, is regulated by leptin and ghrelin. So that's the hunger hormone and the satiety hormone. So when we don't get a good night's sleep, ghrelin, these go out of whack. So ghrelin gets ramped up, so that hunger signal is more intense, it's more frequent. It's telling the body, get me food, I need energy because I haven't had enough sleep. And then leptin, which is our appetite suppressor, that gets ramped down. So, you know, our hunger is up here and our satiety is down here, which is just like say, it's just going to cause you to want to eat everything in sight pretty much. So yeah, balance goes out of whack, and then we're a lot more susceptible to cravings when we're in this sort of state. So, and what in turn then, you know, lack of sleep negatively impacts your energy levels. So your body is going to try and seek out quick sources of fuel. So this is usually stuff which is very high in carbohydrates and sugar. So we get that quick release of energy into the bloodstream. But again, as we've already mentioned, quick energy means we have a big spike in blood sugar, which then leads to that big crash. And then you just end up in a bit of a vicious cycle then, don't you? Where it's like, you know, you end up with a crash, you crave more food, these foods again to bring the energy back up, and you end up on this little bit of a roller coaster. Whereas, like Sam said, if it's more about regulating that blood sugar, so trying to have good quality sources so we get that sustained release throughout the day rather than this being this up down all the time.
And that's what people say is like you know, it isn't insulin spikes that make people fat, but it's the insulin spikes that make people eat more calories. You know, so people say that sugar isn't the enemy. Sugar doesn't make you fat. No, it doesn't, but it will make you want to eat more food. So if you didn't have the sugar, you wouldn't want to eat all the food, you know, or have that, or consume the excess calories. So it's one of those, you know, what comes first? Is it the chicken or the egg? Like, you know, you're better off not having it, and you're better off setting yourself up to win the day by having a really good, you know, breakfast that does allow you to manage your blood sugar levels. Because if you do have a high sugar breakfast, you're going to have more cravings later in the day, and then you got to, you know, fight that temptation, and you got to be, it's harder to do. It's only so long you can resist, right?
Yeah, that's it. And it's like, I think sometimes, you know, if you look at things in isolation, it's like, oh yeah, okay, like say sugar doesn't make you fat, it necessarily doesn't. But you know, what's the knock-on effect? You have too much sugar, what's the next step? And then, you know, like say it goes on from there, like a little bit of a vicious cycle. So yeah, in isolation, sugar's not the issue, but in the grand scheme of things, it can be part of a bigger problem, can't it?
Yeah.
So in terms of, you know, if you do struggle with sleep, what are some strategies you can incorporate to help overcome these sort of things? So again, I'm going over all ground here. Focus on a high protein breakfast instead of a quick, sugary, high carb, pick me up sort of breakfast. So yeah, plant-based smoothies. So getting some spinach and fruit and berries and protein in a smoothie, or like we talked about, eggs, protein, you know, lean cuts of meat, that sort of stuff with some vegetables. Those can be a really good option to have to start your day off on the right foot. And then keeping protein servings regular throughout the day. Again, this just helps with blood sugar management, keeping it stable, which is going to help keep cravings at bay. And then try not to let it persist. So try and break that cycle if you were stuck in this thing of bad sleep. So, you know, before, like, look at your sleep management, or, you know, your sleep hygiene, however you want to term it. Like we've talked about in the lifestyle posts and the groups about the 10-3-2-1 routine. So like try little things like an hour before bed, stop working, try and chill yourself out, read a book, I don't know, do a puzzle, go for a walk, those sort of things to try and start winding yourself down. So when you do attempt to go to sleep, you are ready to go to sleep, rather than being like just switching the laptop off, finish your emails, and just trying to lie down and go straight off, because that's not going to work. Making sure we're not eating too close to bedtime. So those little management techniques. So make more of an active effort to try and break that cycle, because it's going to make things a lot easier if you can get out of those bad habits. And then looking at exercise now. So exercise can actually help reduce appetite and the influence of cravings. But what you find is it's everything in moderation. So if we're getting the right amount of exercise and we're giving ourselves adequate time to recover as well, we're going to get the positive effects: reduce appetite, reduce cravings. But if we go too far the other way and we're exercising several times a day, every day a week, and it's intense as well, it's going to have the opposite effect. Appetite is going to get ramped up, so you're going to be looking for food a lot more. If this is you, usually this is something you see more of athletes, but you can get it with Gen Pop clients as well, especially when there's multiple things going on at once. They're not sleeping enough, they're stressed, and they're overtraining. It's just all like a recipe for disaster. So yeah, if you may not be sure whether this applies to you, so just keep an eye on your sort of hunger levels on training days and see if there's a bit of a difference in terms of what you're experiencing. And then stress. So yeah, it doesn't just put you in the mood, it throws your hormones out of whack, which is then going to have an impact on cravings and those sort of things. So especially sweet foods. So I think I mentioned this last week, how when cortisol is released in the bloodstream, insulin is actually helps to downregulate cortisol, so bring it back in line. So this is why we get, when we're stressed, we sometimes get this regularly get these cravings for sweet food. So that's so we can get that insulin spike, so the body can bring cortisol down. So that's why you sort of notice that. Now, if stress is acute, it's short term, it's in the moment, which is what the stress response is designed for, a sprint, not a marathon, then you actually find in that moment, appetite is suppressed, because we're going through our stress response, this fight or flight. And, if we were in the caveman days, if we were in a dangerous situation where, I don't know, we're being tracked down by a saber-toothed tiger or whatever it might have been, the last thing we're going to think is, oh, I'm hungry, I should grab something to eat. No, you're just going to run. So your body's not going to worry about the fact whether it's hungry or not. It's just going to try and get you out of there, or it's going to try and get you to put up a fight. Now, the issue with stress is, especially in this day and age, is it's not an acute response anymore. Often we are chronically stressed, which means, we're constantly in that fight or flight mode over a long period of time. So when that happens, cortisol is frequently elevated. And then, like say, these cravings are going to become pretty much, you're going to face them all the time. So, and you'll get drawn to certain types of food. So foods which are high in calories, high in fat, high in sugar, or even a combination of all three pretty much. And then also when you're, like say, it's this vicious cycle we get ourselves in. If you're stressed, you're not likely to sleep well. So on top of that pile as well, throw on all the negative aspects of not getting enough sleep. And that's going to, again, ramp up those cravings much more. So you can't look at anything in isolation, can you, Sam?
No, and I think when you just touched on exercise and stress there, it's important to think about the type of training you're doing and the effect that has in terms of stress as well. Because what you'll find a lot of the time is people will, when they want to lose body fat, obviously, as you and I know, is down to training, is down to nutrition, is down to lifestyle. But what people tend to do is they'll just look solely at the training. But what they'll do is they'll tend to like increase their energy output massively by, let's look at January now. People put on weight over Christmas. What do they want to do? They'll start running. All right. And I'm going to go for an hour run. Okay. Because it sounds fun. I'll run for an hour 3 times a week. Well, they're going to probably do that while going on quite a drastic diet. All right. So this is typically what people do in January, right? So they'll run for an hour a week, hour 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 60 minutes. They might run 10K. And they've also cut their calories down to probably below 1,500. Well, the average person, if they run for an hour non-stop, you're probably going to burn at least 300 or 400 calories in that hour. Plus you've lowered your calories to say 1,500 or less. You're on, 1,000 calories a day. Your body's got to survive on. Plus you're a mom, you've got 2 kids, you've got a busy job, stressful job. You're on the go all day. your stress levels are high. You've just burned through a shit ton of energy in that 1 hour training session. Plus, you're already in a huge deficit from your aggressive diet. Cortisol levels are through the roof. And then obviously you've just trained for an hour. So if you've ever run for an hour or played football, I can. It's so hard on those days to keep your calories in line with the other days because your expenditure is so high. And then people think that they're self-sabotaging because they can't stick to it. But it's like trying to follow a map to London and you're looking at a Chinese newspaper. Like you're setting yourself up to fail. Do you know what I mean? So that's what you got to think about as well. Like training is stress. The nutrition should fall in line with the training. You can't have an aggressive training program with an aggressive diet. It's going to be too short term. Okay, so set yourself to win. If you prefer to create the deficit through really hard workouts, then great. Maybe keep your calories on the higher end. If you don't really enjoy training, maybe keep your training frequency a bit less and be a little bit more, potentially a little bit more aggressive with the deficit. But trying to do both is crazy. So manage your stress through nutrition and training is key. And obviously exercise plays a big role in that too.
Yeah.
And what the last thing as well is if you're doing a lot of metabolic work, we know metabolic work is very glycolytic, which means it burns a lot of glycogen. So you going low carb and doing a lot of metabolic work, again, like you're setting yourself up to fail. Cravings will be through the roof.
Yeah, definitely. And then the other factor that we mentioned can have an influence is hydration. So yeah, like I keep banging on about it, but I cannot tell you how important it is to making sure we're getting adequately hydrated each and every day, especially when it comes to maintaining weight and health. Because what's the body like? 70% water or something like that. So it's not just that we need water. Like water is involved in every pretty much metabolic or energetic process. So even though it doesn't give us energy in terms of calories, it helps fuel those processes, which is then going to give us energy so we can actually function. So yeah, very, very important. And then if you're getting that thirst signal, like say the body wants to maintain homeostasis, so keep things in certain ranges. So if something is out of whack, it's going to make you uncomfortable to drive you to take action. So yeah, if you're thirsty, you're dehydrated. So that means your body doesn't have the adequate water it needs to run certain functions properly. But then the issue is with this, it's not just that we're lacking water, we're also potentially lacking some minerals. So in the forms of salt and potassium and some of the other electrolytes, which Sam's talked about earlier. So yeah, all these sort of things we're probably not getting as well. So yeah, maintaining your water intake to a regular level is very important. We tend to recommend 1 liter per 25 kilos of body weight. So, if you're 50 kilos, that's 2 liters, 75 is 3, 100 is 4. And that's usually, quite good in terms of getting enough that's going to keep those cravings at bay and making sure we're getting plenty so we can function properly. Because, the more hydrated we are, the better we can perform in the gym as well. So, if you're just 2% dehydrated, or you're slightly dehydrated, that affects performance massively, or something along those lines, isn't it, Sam?
Yeah, I think a 2% dehydration can affect power output by up to 10%.
That's the one.
Yeah, so it's like 5 times worse. So yeah, makes you hydrated.
Yeah, so potentially leaving a lot of gains on the table if we're not getting enough water.
Yeah, the other day actually, like last Friday night, I had a game and I had a busy day in work and I just didn't drink enough water. I'd run out of my magnesium like a week before, so my supplements were not as good as they should have been. I think that day I hadn't had a greens drink in the morning because I was like busy in the gym and I just forgot it. It was just one of those days, and I had a game in the night and I felt fine winning the game. Literally 15 minutes to go in the game, I had chronic cramp in both calves and my abdominals at the same time.
Oh God, that must have been
so like a lot of goalkeepers have water with them, and our goalkeeper had a bottle of water. So I literally downed a 250 milliliter bottle of water. It's about 20 minutes to go in the game, mind. And I managed to carry on for another 10 minutes, and it did dissipate the cramp a little bit, but it kept flickering and coming back in my calves. So I had to come off. Now this week, I've had a better week, back on my supplements. My nutrition's probably been a little bit, like a tiny bit better. I've been doing my hydration, etc. And I played Saturday 90 minutes. I was more active in the game, did more steps, no cramp. And I haven't done any fitness training this week. So, it all comes down to mineral balance, hydration. I literally 20 minutes ago, I was cramping. I was like an old man. I know I am an old man, but yeah, this week I was a lot better.
There we go.
That's preparation, right?
That's it. Prevention is better than cure. Okay, so to wrap up tonight, we're going to give you some little 7 little takeaways to help you beat those cravings. So yeah, try utilizing these guys and see how they help you, and let us know if they work. Great, like give us some feedback, and so we people can see real practical examples of how this stuff can actually be beneficial. So yes, number 1, drink your water. Eat your protein. 3, distance yourself from the cravings. So, I'm a firm believer of out of sight, out of mind. And, in terms of trying to break negative behaviors, so we see, or bad habits, because sometimes cravings can be habitual. We get home from work and like the first thing you do is go looking in the cupboards or fridge for like, bar of chocolate or something like that. If you make something, so in terms of trying to promote good habits, make it obvious. If you're trying to break a bad habit, make it difficult, put barriers in the way. So, put it on the top shelf, which you can't reach, stupid things like that. Or just like say, just get it out of the house completely. Get yourself away from that thing that's going to tempt you into giving into that craving when it comes about. Planning your meals in advance as well. So, being proactive as opposed to reactive, because sometimes when we're in a bit of a reactive state, we sort of act before we think, and sometimes you reach for one of these, I don't know, high sugary, quick source of energy sort of foods, and then next it's like, how did that happen? Do you know what I mean? So yeah, getting ahead of the game can be really good. So yeah, planning your meals and avoiding getting too hungry as well. So this is where like having foods with you, meal prepping, that sort of stuff can help, because if we're in that extreme state of hunger, then the body is just going to want a quick energy source. And again, it's those things we've talked about. It's going to be a high calorie, probably high sugar, high fat food, which is probably not going to be the best for you, and it's going to put you on that roller coaster of quick sugar release and that big crash probably following afterwards.
Yep.
Stress management as well, trying to manage that as best you can. Easier said than done, I know, but it's trying to find strategies which work for you. So doing yoga, getting out for a walk, on a nice sunny day, meditating, reading, journaling, all these sort of things to try and help you sort of downregulate that stress response, that nervous system, and try and switch into more of a parasympathetic state for a bit, and getting enough sleep. So yeah, like I say, try and work on these little sleep hygiene to try and make sure you're getting good quality sleep. Not so like good quality more than quantity, I think, when it comes to sleep, isn't it, Sam?
Yeah, I think deep sleep has been shown to help a lot more with what's the right word? Our creativeness. We feel more creative when we've got deep sleep. So I think that basically means that we can think on a deeper level. So we're not going to go through the day a bit, through the motions, so to speak. So yeah, you can start thinking about and process things a little bit on a deeper subconscious level if you've had more REM sleep. So yeah, deep sleep is great if you're really trying to fight off urges of temptation. 100%. There's 7 good ones. I'll throw in some really fun ones as well, which work. All right. So don't touch the food. All right. So say you want chocolate, don't pick it up. All right. There's a reason why in supermarkets all the chocolate is quite low down. All right. It's because children can grab it. All right. And then what's the worst thing you can do as a parent? Take something off your child that he has in his hand that he wants. If you take, they won't let it go. So there's been like loads of studies done, and supermarkets are actually laid out in a certain way to play these mind games on parents and children. So if you grab something, obviously you've got in your hand, the urge then to eat it and the temptation is way, way higher. So don't pick it up, don't touch it. That's the first thing. The second thing that can help if you are going a longer time between meals, obviously structuring your day, not snacking is a good thing. If you're potentially going to be offset and you like eating, better off having 3 square meals. So getting a bit of structure with your days is going to help, and you can set an alarm on your phone to do that, which is good. You can another good one as well is you can have a safe box. All right, you might have seen these for phones. You can set an alarm on it, so you can put all your chocolate in a box. All right, with a code, and you can only open it once every 24 hours. So that's a good thing. All right. I know that I've known a client that's actually had one of these, and it does work. When you open it, you take one thing out, you shut it, and it doesn't open again for 24 hours. So a lot of business guys, I know, they have these things with their phones. They put their phone in it, they lock it up, they can't open it for an hour. So it means they get more deep work done. Other things that can work is chewing gum. Gum can work, all right? And another thing that works is cleaning your teeth. If you have a craving, try cleaning your teeth, all right? And then see if you still want the food. All right, that's some random ones there.
Yeah, I think that came funny enough in our little book for this. Yeah, under the distance yourself from the craving. So it just provides that little bit of a distraction to get your mind off that thing. So I think we said it last week, like a craving can last supposedly between like 3 and 5 minutes. So yeah, create that distance, go and do something else just to throw you off a little bit and see if you can get through those few minutes before that.
Exactly. I remember what we spoke about last week. If you're craving something sweet, have something sweet, but a healthier version. You know, if you're craving chocolate, have some dark chocolate, but have a little square of it. Make sure it is controlled. No one's saying you can't give in to the craving, but don't binge. You know, if you want some chocolate, have a curly whirly. In fact, if you know every night you have a sugar craving, factor a curly whirly into your calories. Factor a Freddo in, factor a chomp bar in, something that's you can still follow that 80-20 rule. No one's saying you can't give in to these cravings. If you're sensible, you'll set your day up so you can actually have what you want and still win, which is where obviously the coaching comes in as well. So which is what we try and do every day, right? Try and get as much fun and food into the diet as we can. Clients enjoy their food, they enjoy their diet, and they still move forward and see success.
That's the dream, isn't it?
It's the dream.
All right. And that is where I'm going to wrap it up, basically. So, yeah, guys, if you've got any questions after watching this, then you know the drill. Pop them in the comments. Tag me or Sam in there just to make sure we see it, because sometimes we don't always see it if not tagged the way Facebook works. Yeah, make sure you tag us. What did you find helpful from this? Share any feedback you've got in the comments, and we'll get back to you. But
last thing, if anyone is really struggling with this, like, reach out, let us know. Obviously, we've given you loads of tips tonight, but we've been doing this for a long time. I've been doing this for like 15 years now, and I'm quite good at picking like something that's really obvious to me that seems to help clients a lot. You know, I know Susie at the moment, one of my clients, has been out a lot of cravings. All I've done for her, made a few modifications with breakfast. She has a green drink, the SOS Green Super Greens, before breakfast and before lunch, 30 minutes before. And then that's taken away all of her crazy cravings. So she's much satisfied now from those meals. And like I said to you on the first call, it's to do with the pituitary gland. And that's going to send signals to the brain saying you're hungry if you're not getting enough nutrients from your food. It's why we can have a McDonald's and have 1,000 calories and be hungry like 90 minutes later. Whereas we have eggs for breakfast, that's half the calories of the McDonald's, and we're super full. So again, it's to do with the nutrient density. But having a greens drink means you haven't got to eat the nutrients, you're just drinking it, and it tastes quite nice as well. It's orange flavor. So if you're watching this, let me know. All I can do for you is we can do a greens and a magnesium and a zinc combined. We can do that. Buy the greens, get the zinc and the magnesium for free. All right. So if anyone's watching this, that's your reward for watching to the end. All right. I'll know you've watched this if you come up to me and say, can I have that offer of a greens and a zinc and magnesium for free? And I'll be like, yes, you can, because you watched till the end. You deserve it. All right.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, yeah, we'll wrap it up there, guys. So hope you enjoyed that. Yeah, any questions or feedback, pop them in the comments when Sam posts this in the Facebook group. And yeah, thanks for watching.